to the road to growth, success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, Realtor Growth listeners. Today I got Timber Barker. He is the CEO and founder of Boom Interactive. There's a lot of Boom Interactives out there, but there's only one Boom Interactive. IO?
Yeah. Yep.
IO, right? Okay, now Boom Interactive, we're going to a little more deep dive of what Boom Interactive does. I mean, I'm not going to even jump into it. I'm going to let Timber, can you just describe it, what you guys do?
Yeah, so we, thanks for having me on first off. I mean, I appreciate this, appreciate your time. I've looked into what you do and I honor that. Like, it's really cool what you're doing. So thank you for getting this message out there and helping a lot of people. So we're an AI tech company. And when you say that, people are like, well, what does that even mean? We focus on technology or using an automation, we'll say AI or machine learning, and we can create 3D scenes instantly from just a line drawing, a sketch, or a floor plan. And I know you're in real estate and things of that nature, but I mean, how great would it be to show up to a commercial real estate showing and you're showing a client this, but on your phone, you have the entire 3D dollhouse version of the space you're looking at. You can start dropping in grayscale desks and chairs and different things and different configurations, and you can do it as the agent. And you don't have to go hire this art team. You don't have to go hire this group to produce a turnaround. You can literally do it on site as you do it. So for real estate sales, we think it's going to be great for interior design and decorating, for architects, for builders. And we created this for the most average consumer, which is me. And I was like, why can't I use something in 3D? Just drag and drop really quick. I know this doesn't technically go into exactly what Boom does, and I'm kind of diverting away a little bit, but I own a game company, a video game company as well. And we play The Sims and we play these video games and we have these really great experiences. And what Boom Interactive has done is we've transcended video games and gamified experiences into the real world. We want real world life problems and using game tech to solve those things. And that's what we did. We honestly created something that we thought existed in the world and it didn't. And so we've wrapped it around multiple patents. We have issued patents. We have multiple patents on the way to, protect what we have created. And I know I'm giving you an example of real estate, right? I'm giving you an example of interior decorating and whatnot, but I showed this to some of my film friends. And I also own a film school for kids. It's something that's near and dear, good passion projects, been around for about 20 years. And I was showing, my partners this and showing some directors and producers, and they want their own version of the technology that we created. And so Boom Interactive has created different subsidiary companies in different markets using the same piece of technology, but a completely different ecosystem of users. And so we're very proud of it. We're very excited. It's coming out soon. And groups are using it right now on major projects and pilots just to make sure we have the right feature set for them and their clients. So,
well, just the ease of what you're talking about, I'll bring it back. I mean, of course, in all the different platforms, we talked about it in schools, and we talked about other avenues. And I mean, in the real estate field, especially in the residential real estate field, where most people don't have the imagination to see what's even possible there, to have that flexibility to have, okay, hey, if I can think it, I can do it. This is what it is down to. I mean, it makes it very, very, very simple. I mean, well, let's rewind though.
Yeah.
A young Timber. I mean, you talked about video games. Were you always into the digital scene? Were you into basically creating things? I mean, who was a young Timber?
Gosh. Wow. I don't know if we have enough time to go into that, but I'll give you the high and low of both. I'll try to answer that. No, I haven't always been in that. As a matter of fact, I grew up in a very blue collar family. We had family businesses. We have a ranch in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. We have a sawmill up in the Yukon Territory. We had fishing ships out of the Bering Sea, net and salmon. And did ranching, did sawmills, learned how to weld and cut, and was just very entrepreneurial family. And then my father You know, he went and got educated in college, and he came out with an engineering degree, and he went over into Boeing. And so I spent most of my childhood up in the Seattle area. And so I saw the best of both worlds. I saw my dad with this very stable job, although, you know, Boeing, they go through waves of layoffs, so it's not the most stable, but it's an extremely great job, and he loved it there. Yet we also had these family businesses that we're kind of doing on the side. And so I did have best of both worlds. Saw a lot of death. Let's be honest with you, a lot of hardships, a lot of rough stuff. And I was like, man, I got to get out of this. And I started to study computers early 90s. And so this is before the internet.
Okay, before we get into that, I mean, when you talk about deaths, I mean, what happened there?
Well, just so my uncle fell off the ship when I was young, and he drowned within a few minutes just up in Dutch Harbor. That was pretty hard on the family. And then there was a couple workers, you know, as you're logging, it's very, very dangerous. You know, I saw some pretty horrific accidents to people, and a lot of death. And it's just not something you should see as a kid. And it's not actually something I talk about a lot, but it is part of my story because it really gets me to where I'm at now, and has really helped form what kind of a leader that I want to be for all of my team members and all of my investors and my kids as well. And looking at the human side of things quite a bit more than just, you know, the business side of things. And so it is part of my story. Yeah.
So let me try to take back a little bit on that. I mean, so what you're saying is that seeing all that death makes you and wants you to appreciate basically the day to day, I guess, and not solely on the work.
Absolutely. And I mean, death is a thing. It's around us all the time. And I know I don't want to be morbid about this, but my business partner who started Boom with me, he's been my business partner for 9 years. He recently just passed away. His name was Henry Asachi Yamada, and he was art director and a very dear friend of mine. And he just got a rare disease in 2021. And within 6 months, he was he didn't make it. You know, I had to pull his plug. Actually, this year we ended up pulling his life support from him. And so that's been tough on me personally. It's been tough on the team, and, you know, we're still in it to win it. And again, there's another just random event of losing somebody. And so, yeah, I have a deep respect for humans, like the human race or human rights, for it's helped me be a better leader where, yeah, you need to be a businessman, you need to be a business person, and at the same time, speak to your people and have one-on-ones and make sure we're not crunching and we're unhappy. And, you know, a happy team member just means the world to us here. And so, yeah, I have a very different lens, I think, than a lot of my counterparts and some of my friends that have their own businesses and how they see things. I do see it a little different. I don't know how else to say that.
No. I think you said it. You said it well. I mean, so now let's rewind in the 90s. Okay, you're leaving your family-run businesses and you're going off your own. I mean, talk to us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, just learning computers. I was like, well, computers won't hurt somebody, although they do. But as a young guy, I didn't know this, right? I'm just, let me study computers. So learning about RAM, learning about GEICO, learning about the basics of a computer. So hardware, I really dove heavily into hardware. And then I realized that software was extremely powerful. And sometimes a lot of the software that wants to be developed really spearheads a lot of the hardware that needs to be built. And I thought that was fascinating. And so I got into computers. Was an artist as well. So play some musical instruments, was in art, love video games from early on. You know, my first system ever was a TurboGrafx 16. And a lot of people don't know what that is. And I got it because all of my friends were getting the Super Nintendo. And they're getting the Super NES. Oh, the NES and the Super NES is around that time. And I went and got a TurboGrafx 16. And I was like, what is this? And it was the first video game console that had a CD-ROM. You can actually you can buy another unit that goes onto your normal simple $100, $100 was a lot back then, $100 TurboGrafx 16. And you get it was the very first CD-ROM console system. It was amazing. It was awesome. So I dove heavily into video games and the art and the music and the experiences, and I fell in love with that experience, and that really has helped also my career all the way up to this point. And I've been in a design related field since I got out of, kind of all the family business stuff.
So you're getting into technology, you're getting into gaming, you're learning more about that. Your dad was with Boeing, your family had family run businesses. What was their perception of what you were doing? I mean, because that's the early stages where maybe it wasn't as socially acceptable to be into gaming, right? And now you could make a really good living doing that stuff. And I think more people are aware of that. But back then, the early stages of it was probably, why you waste your time on something like this?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like gosh, when you're growing up with a Nintendo, you couldn't play it all day. Right. I mean, well, first off, your thumbs would be raw because the controllers were pretty bad back then. But so they weren't really meant to just sit there and binge on. Whereas now today you can have a massive multiplayer online experience and sit in a game with all of your friends for 8 hours a day, and it's I don't know if it's socially acceptable yet, but you can still have that experience. So yeah, early on it was, still got outside, went and built forts, shooting and hunting and things like that. Still did a lot of camping and hiking, and then a little bit of video games, but I loved it so much. I was always eager to get back to the consoles, eager to get back to experiencing and growing a skill set, hand-eye coordination, stuff like that. And I actually went to the Art Institute of Phoenix in 2001 to do game art, video game art and design. And I lasted 3 months because they were teaching me stuff that I already knew. And I'm just like, guys, I already know how to do this. It's very expensive to come to the school, first off. And I just was like, this isn't for me. And so I didn't go. I didn't do it. I just got into the workforce and became a writer and was doing a lot of instructional design for some major, massive companies in the world, and worked my way up from doing that. And I mean, I can go into so many different things. I don't even know where you want me to.
Yeah, no. So, okay. So you joined a company, you're working up the ranks, you're getting knowledge. I mean, kind of, how is it in the corporate world? I mean, and again, at this time, do your parents give you any flack for leaving the family-run businesses?
No, not really. My father was in a pretty serious sawmill accident up in the Yukon Territory, Canada. And he had to rehabilitate for a year because it was a pretty horrific accident. And I was there. My two little sisters were there. My little brother was there. My mom was there at the sawmill when this happened. So it was a pretty traumatic experience for most of my family, and ended up saving my dad's life with the help from, my brother, and my mom was hysterical in a wreck, but this was all live, happening and unfolding in front of us in the middle of nowhere. Like, we're in Watson Lake, Yukon Territory. We're 5 miles, maybe 10 miles away from just a unit that could stabilize him. And then they had to airlift him and fly him to Whitehorse, which is a 5-hour drive. So it was pretty crazy. And so he had to rehabilitate in Canada. We moved back to Seattle and lived with my uncle, and they're gracious enough to let an entire family live with them, and plus all of his kids. So there's like 12 kids in this kind of small house at the time, and they never gave me flack. They were very just like, hey, education is important. Go to school, do what you want. They were very supportive with everything that I've ever wanted to do in my life. And so I honor that, and I respect that. And that's really helped me be a father too. I got 4 kids. And so that's helped me be like, more like my family was, and just whatever you want to do, we will support. Right. So stayed in school, played a lot of sports, studied art, was into video games, knew I wanted to do something in the game industry. And actually, when I first, jumping forward a little bit, when I first got into just the workforce, I had to find a good job. I didn't even care where that was. And the first job I got was with Citigroup, and it was in City Financial, actually. And I was doing a lot of finance, and I started to learn about, I love math, first off. So I was doing, a lot of the financial stuff and worked my way up in that. And I had a knack for training. And I thought the training curriculums were all wrong. And I got into education reform a little bit because of that. Because I was looking at this and I was like, look, a lot of people, especially as adults, we weren't taught how we consume information. We just discovered it on our own. And so we go to the school system, and the school system is a big blanket of topics, and you got to test out, and it's assumed that every kid learns the same way. And so you go into that, and then you get into college, and it's just like a culture shock, because the teacher is just like, well, you can show up if you want. I don't care. Here's your syllabus. Good luck. Very different experience. And so you learn how you need to really consume information and how you learn as a person. Then you get into the workforce world, and it's even different. It's another culture shock. Everything's based on merit, and then you're kind of, it depends on where you work, but there could be a lot of hand-holdy and a lot of micromanagement, and you're also not used to that again. And so it's just another form that you now have to learn and consume information to do a good job, or you don't get paid well, and you can't support your family. And so it's kind of a struggle if you look at all of that. And my whole point in bringing all that up is I was like, training curriculums could be done differently. And so I actually got heavily involved in the training organization within Citigroup. And then I went into AT&T, and then I went to Ernst Young. And so I was working my way up in some major companies. And I actually ended up on the global account for Ernst Young under IT risk and assurance. It's called ITRA. There's data governance side, there's audit, internal audit, tax, many, many practices. And I was able to help write curriculums for, line employees or line staffers, all the way up to partner level training curriculums. And I helped write, SOC, SOC2, deployed those over to Asia Pac. And it's all design though. I mean, it's all still design. And so I was always in that design related field, made a lot of money, but I just wasn't happy. I can remember distinctly in 2010, helping a couple really awesome curriculums with Ernst Young and saving them a lot of money in a couple different areas. And I was like, man, I'm getting paid a lot. Why am I so unhappy? And so I decided to quit, just quit a really good job and start a startup. And
how long from the moment that you realized you weren't happy did you actually quit?
I want to say it was years, like maybe 4 years. It's not a really quick decision you can make. I mean, had a family, I had young kids, I had good insurance, I was making a good wage, I was traveling the world, I was meeting a lot of people. It's not just like a flippant, I'm unhappy, I'm going to quit. It just slowly ramped up to understanding what I need and what makes me happy. And I realized that I was born a certain way. And that way I was born was an entrepreneur. It wasn't just because I grew up in an entrepreneurial family and seeing best of both worlds. I really strongly believe you're either born with it or you're not. I have a persistence and a patience, and I never give up. And that is the key thing you need as an entrepreneur. For example, today, I have a lot of friends who are just like, oh, I'm unhappy too. I'm going to go start a startup, and they go start a company and then it fails. And then they're like, oh, well, it didn't work out, so I'm going to go back to the workforce, and they don't try again. Well, that's not an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur will always fail, but they will always try again. They'll get back up on that horse. They will prove to the world that they learned something from their failures or fail forward. And you hear a lot of these words on LinkedIn, but I've lived that my entire life, and it's ingrained in me.
To fail forward as an individual, and like you said, is very different from failing forward with the family. So what was your thought process? Did you put guidelines in place or put things you had to hit to allow you to quit and start your own company? Or what went through that process?
I wanted to come up with a pretty good idea of something. And I follow this process now. And I think back in 2010, it was just the beginnings of this process that I've now honed. But there's kind of 5 things that I do. You get an idea, and ideas are a dime a dozen, right? It's all about execution. So I'm like, look, you got to validate your idea. Whatever that is, validate it. And that could take a year, it could take a month, it could take something, but make sure that there's a buyer. Make sure whatever you are going to do solves an actual problem. And that's why a lot of pitch decks that VCs want to see is like, well, show me your problem solution slides. Like you need to convince us there's an actual problem here. So that's the first thing, is validate your assumptions. Second thing is build a prototype. Don't get in front of anybody until you have something working. Third thing is put a full-time team on it. That's like period. I know a lot of people want to moonlight and do things, but if you're truly passionate about this, you've validated it, you've built a prototype, you've already done a lot of the hard work, put a full-time team on it. Whether if it's you or two other individuals or just you and a business partner, great. Fourth thing is you need to sacrifice. And this is a word a lot of people I don't think really quite understand. You have to be willing to sell everything you have, everything you've collected up to that point in your life, and put all of that into your idea, your concept, your business. And if you're not willing to do it, or your significant other isn't cool with that, then it'll never work. The fifth thing is protect. You need to be able to protect that. And so when I talk about protecting it, it doesn't mean IP. It doesn't mean a patent. It doesn't mean this. Your protection could be a great contact that gets you an 18-month runway for your product, that gets you in the market quicker than anybody else. That's also a very good GTM or go-to-market strategy. And so I didn't have that in 2010. I've honed that now by failing a couple times. And I'm not, proud of the failures, but again, like I said, you cannot prove that you learned anything unless you try again and incorporate all of, the lessons that you learned in those failures. And so today I follow those 5 things. I actually do a lot of tech reviews for other wealthy individuals for companies they want to invest in. They may not quite understand what this product or technology is. And I said, it doesn't matter if you don't understand it. These 5 things need to be shown to you within about 30 seconds. And if they can't show you those things, then don't invest. And I say the same thing on the other side to entrepreneurs. Don't ask for a dime of somebody else's money until you've done all of those things. And some of them get confused, to be honest with you. And I'm going to go back to, you're either born with it or you're not, because they're like, well, how am I going to build a prototype? How am I going to build half the product if I have no money? And I'm asking for money so I can go do this. And I'm not saying my concept is 100% foolproof, but it's pretty dang close. If they can't show you those things, then they're not going to be the kind of entrepreneur or leader that your money should back, period. And they, again, shouldn't ask for a dime of anyone else's money until those things are in place. And if they can't figure those things out, then why would you invest in them?
And I think what you're saying is very powerful, because you have to know full-heartedly with everything you have that you're going to succeed in what you do, right? So you're not thinking of the negative, actually getting rid of the stuff or losing the stuff or selling off the stuff. And you have to be more positive, right, in where you're going to go. What's the conversation look like with your wife, right, when you're going to take the jump to a new adventure, and she's knowing that you've already gone through these 5 things, and one of those things is, we might lose everything if I didn't plan it out. What's that conversation look like?
I just go back to the happiness factor. I'm like, look, we collect things. These things don't make us happy. Money doesn't make us happy. Purpose does. And, sometimes I'll talk to my wife, and even in this venture and I've been at this for almost 3 years now. So even in the Boom Interactive venture, with everything that we've developed, I didn't really tell her in the beginning. I wasn't like, hey, here's my validation and here's this. I just was like, one day I was like, hey, by the way, I have this idea and I've already talked to some people and I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to pursue it. And my wife actually is amazing. She's an architect in 2 different countries and an award-winning interior designer. So I think she got like 7 awards, a couple national awards. So she's really, really good at what she does. And I have to convince her, just like I'd have to convince somebody to come work with me and be a team member. And if I can't convince somebody to come work with me with an idea, how the heck am I going to convince somebody to invest in it? And then how am I going to convince somebody to even buy it? Like you're the end user, the end user that's going to buy the software, right? How can I convince them if I can't convince my wife? So that conversation.
Who's harder, your wife or a venture capitalist?
Definitely a VC, right? You know, I mean, I don't know. It's the same conversation.
Mm.
She's going to want to go through the same things that, yeah, a VC will want to go through. And I've been in front of a lot of VCs, and you know, they all ask very similar questions. They want to make sure there's a market there. They want to be convinced there's a market there. They want to be convinced that your problem or your solution does solve an actual problem. And then they want to look at your pro forma, make sure you know what you're doing, and also take a look at your team. And so that's the same thing I believe all the stuff a VC asks for: an angel early on, an uncle early on, a team member early on, and then a significant other spouse early on needs to be also convinced of. And so, yeah.
No, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, what's your process being like that you've built other companies, I mean, over the years? What's your process looking like on bringing team members on? Because I've had other people that have been serial quote unquote entrepreneurs, right? And some of them, they have kind of Rolodex. They meet someone, they go, that's a good fit right there. We'll see if I need that person down the road. Other people, when they get the job or they're building the job, they just basically throw it out to the database. They start researching. So do you have like a set Rolodex of people that you would call on if that opportunity arose, or do you just kind of start fresh? How does that look?
Yeah, I kind of do. All right. So you make a lot of connections throughout life. You know, never burn a bridge, but burn the ones you should. And, you know, I'm full of sayings, but all these I've lived. It's not like I'm saying these without actually doing them. Teaming is probably one of the hardest things, right? Finding your true business partners, or you're going to go into a venture with, is no different than finding a spouse. So, and you're dating and you're courting your spouse. And so it's like, it's no different for a business partner. And it always doesn't work out. And so I also follow the slicing pie model, where it's like you get a group of people together and you all start working on something, and the person that works on it more, or the person that puts more cash in, or the person that brings more contacts or contracts to the table, then you divide up the ownership of said company. You all have your roles, but your ownership might have a different split. You'll still have those same roles. And so I actually use that slicing pie model, which helps quite a bit. So that's a methodology, a framework that I use. I even use it with the kids. Also, I mean, yeah, I can go pretty deep on that. How?
Please, yeah, go for it. I'm curious.
Yeah, you know, I had a great group out of India I've used in the past on a project. A good group out of Manila I've had in the past. One out of South America, of course. A lot of friends here in the Americas, also in Canada, United States, and then also in Canada. And yeah, I'll talk to a lot of them, and I'll say, hey, I got this, concept, this thing. And some of them will say, hey, yeah, I want to join. And I'll give you a very specific example of this. My good friend, Evan Lewis, I grew up with him in Seattle. After I left Seattle when I was 13, we both kind of lost track of each other. And this is obviously before phones, cell phones were prominent, and it wasn't, great social networking. It's just, you lose track. He goes and gets his master's degree out of Chicago, and highly educated, and he gets his first job at Amazon, and pretty high up at Amazon. He's there for like 8.5 years. He called me 3 years ago, and he said, hey, my brother and I, his brother's Robert Lewis, very successful family, very smart friends. And Robert was very successful at Qualtrics in and of itself. And so he's like, yeah, my brother and I want to do a startup, and we know you have a lot of learnings and a lot of advice you can give. Can we pick your brain? And I just said, yeah, don't do it. Instead, join mine. So I was a little selfish there when I was like that. And I was just kind of joking. I joke quite a bit with my friends, and I was like, yeah, just come join my startup. He's like, well, what are you doing? And I explained to him what now is Boom Interactive and a couple of our products that, I was giving him the problem solution first. I wasn't really talking about the company name or what the technology is called or what a product's called. I was just saying, here's what it solves. And he just said, well, I'd love to help. And I said, great. Can you help full time? And he's like, well, no, I can't help full time, but I can give you 20 to 25 hours a week, which is massive. he obviously had to get permission from Amazon that he can, do kind of a moonlight project. And yet, I remember I had to sign this document, which was like an Amazon document that allows him to help with this venture. And they're basically like, well, as long as it doesn't compete, and if you're really moonlighting, that's at nights and weekends, and you're getting your work done here. Great company to work for. And anyway, so he helped for about a year until we got enough money from actually a local VC here in Utah, got some money. And I said, all right, Evan, it's time to join us full time. So he quit Amazon and moved his 4 kids down here to the Salt Lake City area. Big move, big change. Didn't pay him much to do that. Gave him some, obviously some equity and some ownership in the company. And he's still here today with us now. He's the VP of product, and he's amazing. So what I'm getting at, to answer your question, is, yeah, it's all just conversations and networking and people that and skill sets that you need. Right? Never bring somebody on just because they're a friend, or just because they're a buddy, or your niece, or it just doesn't matter what that is. Make sure you're building that right team, and make sure you're communicative, and they know that and they understand that.
It seemed like that hire, that partnership was brought on by kind of almost your gut a little bit, right? I mean, and I would think it's a more of a deep dive as you're hiring these days. So is most of, like, when you're bringing on people, it's more off your gut and kind of just taking, because that was a really quick, it sounds like it was very quick in the conversation when he's like, hey, we're thinking about doing this. And then you threw the joke out, well, you should join us. So, I mean, it seemed like it was fairly quick that you're like, I am looking for someone like this, and this guy might be a good fit.
Yeah. I mean, I knew we'd need somebody like that eventually. And so bringing him early on and not really having something very specific for his skill set, I was able to throw a lot of stuff at him. And in a startup, you wear multiple hats, right? So he's now kind of our HR director. He's also VP of product. He helps me with some sales decks and looking at some biz dev opportunities. He helps me with a lot of different things. And when there's kind of a pain point, we're like, okay, we need to bring somebody else in. And we are able to wear many hats. And it is kind of a gut thing. And I've hired, I want to say, close to 600 people in my career, or been a part of the hiring process for about 600 people. Some of those were indirect, most of them were direct. And it's not easy. And a lot of the times, the cultural fit is almost more important than the skill set. I've hired somebody that had 30 years experience in a topic, or in an industry, or in a team, and didn't really fit culturally and was really hard to work with. And then I've hired someone directly out of NYU, literally less than 2 years ago, and he's been the best team member I have ever had in the 600. And part of it is a gut thing. And part of it is like, well, I know you don't know this one thing, but we can work together and learn it and figure it out together. And so when I build a team, it isn't like you're coming in and you're just HR director and this is all you're going to do and this is it. It's like, nope, you're going to come in and you're going to be a true team member, and you're going to help with multiple things, and things might have to pivot a little bit, and you're going to jump in. And if I feel like you can't, or you got to fit that certain mold that we all think needs to happen because it's been around for hundreds of years, no, we break that mold. And you're right, it's completely gut sometimes, where I'm like, I feel this one, we should bring this person on. And often going with the gut feeling and that cultural fit, they make the cut. They stay. So,
well, you've talked about, the growth over the years, and I know we haven't jumped too much into Boom Interactive.
Yeah.
And where do you see the growth of Boom Interactive and how you're going to incorporate AI into the future? If you're talking 5 years from now, where do you see yourself in Boom Interactive?
Well, we want to have an exit. So Boom Interactive has created these subsidiary companies. Our construction product is called Bubbles. It's fun. It's kitschy. It's basically Pinterest in 3D. And so we wanted to have a fun, kind of gender agnostic platform, but really heavy on the design and decor side. Then we have a product in the film industry called Zero. And that name came about from industry professionals. They literally, when I showed them this technology, and I showed them the Bubbles version first, and they were like, you just created a phase zero for our entire industry. And so we're like, oh, we should call it Zero. So we did, trademarked it, called it Zero. They have their own version now. It's on some major movie sets right now. We're very proud of that one. And then we can create a public safety version. We can create an education version. We can create a mining version or a government version. There's using the same core technology at the Boom Interactive level, and we put all the IP up there. We can create individual subsidiary companies, own the ones that we have knowledge of or we have contacts in, and then license out the technology to groups that also, they have 30, 40 years in an industry. We'll let them go run it. They got sales teams, they got customer service. Here's our technology, license it from us, go make some more money with our technology. Obviously we get a license fee and we get some cut of the revenue. So to answer your question, where I see us in 5 years, I believe we can sell every subsidiary for over $1 billion. Oh. So where I see Boom is having a pretty major, massive exit. And I honestly believe that. And we've created an engine not a lot of people can create. And I mean, we're banking on that. We're banking on the product. We're banking on how simple it is and easy it is to use for the average consumer. Earlier you mentioned for residential real estate sales. I drive by neighborhoods all the time, and you see the signs up for sale, right? Berkshire Hathaway, Remax, and a local real estate agent, and some of them still have flyers. And you're like, why are these paper flyers? And let's throw a QR code up on there. When people scan it, they get a dollhouse bubbled up version of the existing house. And then let's let the person do a POV walkthrough of it really quick without having to call the agent. Or how about they can mess around with the walls and the windows and the doors and be like, man, this would be a really great remodel. This is a great configuration. Let's call the agent. Let's now walk through it. Let's prepare people earlier on so that we're wasting less time. And the whole purpose of AI and automating things is to save time. One of our main goals for all of our products is to reduce the design's discovery phase when looking at a 3D environment, no matter what it is. And if we can save 2 weeks in every pre-production of a film, we can save 3 weeks with every architect or every interior design firm doing a tenant improvement, a TI or a remodel. If we can save that time, now you're talking. The design, just design as a whole is a very intimate thing. AI should never solve 100%. I mean, technology should never solve 100% of something so intimate. We believe, though, that it can help you and help the average person ideate quicker. Instead of learning CAD or Revit or Lumion or 3D Studio Max or Maya or hiring these groups that are $180 an hour, use Bubbles. We're going to launch it for free. Let's get you ready to go talk to that agent. Let's get you ready to hire that architect and that designer and that draftsman and that general contractor. The beautiful thing is our software doesn't replace any professional. It actually enhances the entire project from a person all the way to that professional, or from that professional down to a person. So yeah, we're really excited about it. I could show it to you. You want to see it?
Sure.
Like nobody's seen it. Like can I share a screen on this or no?
I don't know if you can.
I probably can't. Let me see if I can do it. Here, let me just see if I can do it right here, real quick. It's
so yeah, for people that are only listening to the podcast, go to the YouTube or go to wherever else we've had this out there to watch this and fast forward so you can see right here. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to show you. These are some projects I've set up. Let me just pull up. Gosh, there's a couple here that are pretty cool. Let me pull up one. So what you do, and I don't know if you can see that. Oh, it's a little glary.
Yeah, I can see it.
Floor plans.
Yeah.
So you can just take a picture of a floor plan. You don't need a special file to upload or a PDF or anything. You can literally just take a picture. If you have a picture on your camera roll, or if you have a web link to a cool floor plan you like, whether that's from Pinterest or from houseplans.com, or it doesn't matter what it is, just take a photograph of it. And what happens is it comes in 3D. See that?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So instantly comes in 3D. And
again, if you're listening to the podcast, go to the YouTube or wherever else we have it, and you can see what Timber's talking about.
You have the ability to see all the rooms in that space, square footage, cubic feet. You can come in here very closely and grab a wall, window, door, change it like instantly with your finger. You can drop in a piece of furniture. You can even have that furniture take a look at the distances so you can see if it even fits in your space. And then, one of our investors, Sam Maloof and Casey Maloof, who I respect dearly, Sam was like, hey, let's now show you where you can buy a couch that's 72 inch to your color palette. Every single thing is tied to an individual digital sticky note, which is a bubble in this case.
Oh my gosh.
These bubbles, you can put a picture, images, notes. You can invite somebody to it. You can have an entire conversation of chat and communication in every single one of these. We aggregate.
This is through Bubbles right now?
Yeah, what you're looking at is the construction version, the DIY, basically just the Bubbles version. We have the same technology for the film industry, so doing a set design or stage layout, even scouting. Yeah. And if you don't have a floor plan, we have a way where you can just walk around the room using your phone to build the entire scene. Actually, I think I have one in here. I can show you. Yeah, here's one. So I just walked around the building using the AR version. And we are the first company that lets you LiDAR scan or AR scan an entire space and then lets you edit the walls, windows, doors.
Well, again, yeah, guys, if you're listening to us, go to the YouTube Road to Growth podcast. You can see exactly what Timber's talking about, and then in the show notes, you'll be able to find Timber, and we'll have the locations where you can find all these different websites, apps. And
it works on iOS and Android. I'll show you one last thing here, and we'll jump back to this. The COO or CTO of Overstock, Joel, really cool guy, really great guy. And I was talking to him. I said, "Yeah, you could even just draw on a napkin." And he was kind of like, "Oh, BS!" Like he's like, "No way." I said, "Do it." So he did. He actually drew on a piece of paper, not a napkin. So
yeah.
That's actually his remodel that he's doing, a bathroom remodel with him and his wife. And it extruded in 3D instantly. Let me get rid of that tree. It doesn't need to be there. It extruded instantly, almost to scale. And then I can put him in just the mannequin and you can POV walk through.
Oh my gosh.
And we're able to do that within about a minute.
That's crazy where things are going.
I know.
I know we talked about where you're going to be in 5 years from now.
Yeah.
In technology, we probably didn't know where we were 5 years ago. Where we are today. So thank you, Timber, for being here today. Thank you for being on the Road to Grow podcast. Thank you for everyone listening. Go in the show notes and go find Timber. I'm going to just finish out one quick last question.
Yeah.
All right. And I know you plan an exit strategy more than likely with Boom Interactives. Do you plan one of these days to build a company that you're going to bring your own kids to join in with you and make your own basically family business?
Yeah, I could see that totally happening. I mean, my oldest is 20.
Okay.
So if I'm looking at an exit in 5 years, I mean, he has the potential to come in and help me do this. I also do believe, the exit could, there's a lot of other things I want to do, a lot of humanitarian, stuff I want to do. I got, 2 nonprofits that I'm in the works of getting finalized. And so having my kids come in and help that and helping our fellow man and women or women, they'll definitely be helping me with those. And so, one of those could be a for-profit company. Again, some nonprofit work. I have the mentality of abundance-minded, make to give. And my kids will definitely be helping me with that if they want to. And if it's in their heart, then they can. And if they don't, that's okay too. So.
Well, thank you again, Timber. For everyone listening, I know that we've gone through so many different things here, and there's probably so many more items that we could really dive into. And I think there's so many key takeaways from basically from this podcast. I mean, we talked about from the beginning about the idea of knowing that life is short and basically know that you're doing something that you really love to do. You could be making really great money. You could be doing really great things. Yet if you don't appreciate it, you're not going to get a second chance. This is not a video game where you're going to be able to put restart and I want to start this over with. Make sure that you're doing what you love and make sure that you can fully invest in it. Go over, and I don't remember all 5 of them, but I get the gist of all 5 when you're starting a business. But the big one was be willing to sell everything you have to make sure that it's going to succeed. Thank you guys. Thank you for listening to the Road Code Podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode. Please subscribe, please share, and go in the show notes. Bye, everyone.